Okay, so let's start with the scenario. Imagine this. You're standing on a pier, enjoying a nice hot coffee. It's a beautiful sunny day.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you look down and you see a stranger fall into the water. They're flailing, screaming for help. They're, clearly drowning.
Right.
You're a strong swimmer. There's a life preserver right next to your foot. All you have to do is kick it to them. It would take zero effort. But instead, you take a sip of your coffee, watch them go under, and simply walk away. Now, the question is, did you commit a crime?
And in the vast majority of jurisdictions in the United States, the answer is shocking but simple. No,
Oh,
you did not.
really?
Yes. Under the common law, there is generally no duty to rescue a stranger. It doesn't matter how easy it would be for you or how dire the situation is for them. You can watch someone die, do nothing, and be legally innocent.
That is just wild to think about. I mean, morally reprehensible, sure, but legally, you're in the clear.
Exactly.
However, today we are diving into a jurisdiction that flips that script entirely. We're looking at the state of Vermont.
Precisely. We are unpacking Vermont Statute 12 VSA Section 519. And it's commonly referred to in legal circles not as a Good Samaritan law, but as a Bad Samaritan statute.
I love that distinction. We usually hear about Good Samaritan laws protecting people who try to help, but this is different. This is about punishing people who don't.
That's it. And that is the roadmap for our deep dive today. We're going to dissect this statute into three very distinct parts to understand how it works.
Right.
First, we have the affirmative duty. That's the part in subsection A that actually forces you to act.
Right.
Second, we have the immunity shield. It's subsection B, which protects you if you do act. And third, we have the penalty, subsection C, which details the consequences of inaction.
So we have a mandate, a shield, and a sword. Let's start with the mandate. This is subsection A. What's the headline here? What's the general rule that Vermont is imposing on us?
So the general rule is an affirmative duty to assist. The text explicitly states that a person shall give reasonable assistance to another person.
And shall is the key word there, I'm guessing?
It is. In statutory interpretation, shall is mandatory. It's not a suggestion. It's a command from the state.
Okay, shall give assistance. But surely it's not that simple. I mean, if I see someone with a flat tire, am I legally obligated to stop and change it?
No, and that's where we need to break down the elements. The statute is very specific about when this duty triggers. If we look at the text of subsection A, we can identify 4 specific elements that must be met before you're on the legal hook to help.
Let's walk through them one by one. What's the first hurdle?
The first element is knowledge. The statute says, a person who knows that another is exposed. This means you have to be actually aware of the situation.
So if you're, I don't know, walking down the street with noise-canceling headphones on, and you honestly don't see or hear the person in trouble.
Then the duty never attaches. You can't be liable for what you don't know.
That makes sense. Ignorance is bliss, legally speaking. What about the flat tire scenario? Why doesn't that count?
Well, that brings us to the second element, gravity of harm. The statute doesn't just say you have to help someone in trouble. It says you must know that another is exposed to grave physical harm.
Grave physical harm. Okay, let's unpack that. We're talking about life or death situations.
Correct, or at least severe injury. A flat tire is an inconvenience, not grave physical harm. We're talking about drowning, severe bleeding, a heart attack, choking situations where the physical integrity of the person is at serious risk.
Okay, so I know it's happening and I know it's serious. Now let's say the person is trapped in a burning car that's about to explode. Do I have to run in there like an action hero?
Absolutely not. And this is the third and perhaps most important element, the safety carve-out.
A carve-out.
Yes. The statute says you only have to assist to the extent that the same can be rendered without danger or peril to himself.
So the law doesn't require martyrdom?
No. The law never requires you to put your own life or safety at risk to save another. If the assistance involves danger or peril to you, the duty just evaporates.
That seems like a very necessary safety valve. Okay, what about the fourth element? What if I'm willing to help, but I'm busy doing something else that's really important?
That is the conflicting duties element. The statute says you must assist without interference with important duties owed to others.
Important duties owed to others. That's interesting phrasing. It sounds like it's prioritizing obligations.
It is. It acknowledges that you might have pre-existing obligations that take precedence over helping a stranger.
And there's one final qualifier in subsection
Right.
A, right? Something about if the cavalry has already arrived.
Yes. The duty does not exist if assistance or care is being provided by others. So if an ambulance is there, or another bystander is already doing CPR, you aren't required to pile on.
All right, let's put this to the test. I want to use the framework you just laid out. Let's analyze the dangerous rescue hypothetical. First, what are the legally dispositive facts?
The facts are these. You're walking past a construction site. You see a worker slip and fall into a deep trench. He's screaming, clearly suffering from a compound fracture. However, the walls of the trench look unstable, there's loose soil falling, and there's a live electrical wire sparking near the puddle he's lying in. You were the only one there.
And what was the core legal issue?
The issue is whether you, the bystander, have an affirmative duty under this statute to enter the trench and rescue the worker.
So what rule of law applies here? Can you state the full black-letter rule and break it down for us?
Sure. The rule is subsection A of the statute. It states a person shall give reasonable assistance to another if they know of the exposure to grave physical harm. And the testable elements are 1. Knowledge of the harm. 2. The harm must be grave and physical. 3. Assistance can be rendered without danger or peril to the rescuer. And 4. Without interference with important duties owed to others.
Thank you. Now for the court's elemental analysis. Let's walk through this step by step. How did the court apply the first element, knowledge?
Well, the bystander sees the fall and hears the screaming. So they have actual knowledge. That element is met.
Understood. Now, what about the second element, grave physical harm?
A compound fracture and being trapped in a trench definitely constitute grave physical harm. The victim is in serious jeopardy, so that element is also met.
Okay, now let's look at the third element, the safety carve-out, the danger or peril one.
This is where the whole analysis turns. The facts state there are unstable walls and a live sparking wire. Entering that trench would expose you to electrocution or being buried alive.
Which is clearly danger or peril.
Absolutely. So this element for the duty fails. The exemption is triggered.
And after analyzing all the elements, what was the court's final conclusion regarding the duty?
The conclusion is that there is no duty to enter the trench. The presence of that live wire and unstable soil triggers the safety carve-out, and it nullifies the obligation to act. The bystander can legally stay on the sidewalk.
That creates a very clear boundary. You don't have to die to comply with the law. Okay, let's look at another one. The conflicting duty hypothetical. What are the facts here?
You are a school bus driver. You're driving 30 children to school. You see a hiker on the side of a remote road who has clearly broken their leg and is waving for help. It's cold out.
And to help, I'd have to stop the bus.
You'd have to stop the bus, leave the children unattended, or delay their transport significantly.
Got it. And the core legal issue.
The issue is whether you, the bus driver, have a duty to stop and assist the hiker despite your obligation to your passengers.
We know the rule is subsection A. Let's jump right to the elemental analysis. What about knowledge and grave harm?
Similar to before, the driver sees the hiker, so knowledge is satisfied. A broken leg in a remote, cold area is grave physical harm. Those elements are met.
Okay. Now let's look at the fourth element, the conflicting duties clause. How does that apply to these facts?
The statute says, without interference with important duties owed to others. A bus driver has a very strict duty of care to the 30 kids on that bus. Stopping, leaving the wheel, bringing a stranger on board, all of that interferes with the duty to keep those children safe.
So what is the conclusion?
The conclusion is that the driver likely has no duty to physically stop and render aid. The important duty owed to others, the children, takes precedence under the statutory language.
It's a balancing act, and the statute explicitly weights your existing responsibilities. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's say the elements are met. It's a sunny day, the water's calm, I have the life ring, I see the drowning man. I decide, okay, I'll comply, I'll help, but I'm clumsy. I throw the life ring, and I accidentally hit the guy in the face, breaking his nose. Can he turn around and sue me?
And this brings us to subsection B, the immunity shield. This is the Good Samaritan aspect of the law. The statute says that a person who provides reasonable assistance shall not be liable in civil damages.
So I have total immunity. I can do whatever I want.
Not total. There are conditions. The biggest one is the standard of care. The statute protects you from ordinary negligence, meaning simple mistakes or clumsiness. But it explicitly states you are liable if your acts constitute gross negligence.
Let's unpack that distinction. Ordinary negligence versus gross negligence.
Ordinary negligence is a failure to exercise reasonable care, like the clumsy throw you mentioned. Gross negligence is a huge step further. It's reckless, willful, or a complete disregard for safety. It's doing something so incredibly dangerous that no reasonable person would ever attempt it.
Are there other exceptions to this immunity in subsection B?
Yes. Two more. First, you can't receive or expect to receive remuneration.
Fancy word for payment.
Right. If you say, I'll save you, but it'll cost you $50, you lose your immunity.
Makes sense. We don't want mercenary rescuers.
Exactly. And the second exception is the healing arts carve-out. The statute says it doesn't alter the liability for a practitioner of the healing arts. So, doctors, nurses, EMTs for acts committed in the ordinary course of his practice.
So if I'm a doctor on duty in the ER, I can't use this statute to say, oops, sorry, I messed up that surgery. I was just being a good Samaritan.
Correct. If you're a doctor doing your job, standard medical malpractice laws apply. This statute is designed for the bystander, not the professional on the clock.
All right, time for another round of analysis. The botched rescue hypothetical. Let's start with the facts.
We have two scenarios here. Scenario A. A rescuer sees a choking victim, attempts the Heimlich maneuver, and accidentally breaks the victim's rib.
Okay.
Scenario B. A rescuer sees a choking victim and attempts a tracheotomy using a ballpoint pen without any medical training.
Wow. Okay, and the legal issue in both.
The issue is whether the rescuer is immune from civil liability for the injuries caused under subsection B of the statute.
And the rule?
The rule is that a person providing reasonable assistance is immune from civil damages unless their acts constitute gross negligence.
Let's do the elemental analysis for scenario the broken rib. How do we apply that gross negligence standard here?
Well, we look at the act. The Heimlich is a standard recognized response to choking. Breaking a rib is, a common complication, or at worst, a result of ordinary negligence. It doesn't rise to the level of recklessness.
So not gross negligence. What's the conclusion for scenario A?
The rescuer is immune. Subsection B shields them from liability for the broken rib. It was a mistake during reasonable assistance.
Now for scenario B, the ballpoint pen surgery. Let's apply that gross negligence element.
Attempting an invasive surgical procedure with, a pen and zero medical training is an extreme deviation from the standard of care. It's a reckless disregard for the victim's safety.
So that fits the definition perfectly.
It squarely fits the definition of gross negligence.
And the conclusion for scenario B.
The rescuer is liable. Because the act was gross negligence, the immunity shield of subsection B is stripped away. They can be sued for the damages they caused.
So try to help, but don't play surgeon. Stick to what is reasonable.
Reasonable assistance is the phrase in the statute, and it's the golden rule here.
Okay, we've covered the duty and the shield. Now for the stick. Subsection C. I'm on the pier. No danger to me. I know they're drowning. I have the life ring, and I just don't do it. I walk away. I have violated the statute. What happens to me? Do I go to prison?
This is where the statute gets fascinating and, honestly, a little anticlimactic. Subsection C lays out the penalty. A person who willfully violates a subsection A shall be fined not more than $100.
Wait, $100?
That is the maximum penalty, not more than $100, no jail time, no felony record, just a fine that's probably cheaper than a speeding ticket.
That seems disproportionate. We're talking about grave physical harm, potentially death, and the penalty for walking away is $100.
It creates a strange paradox.
Oh.
The law takes the moral stance that you must save a life, but it values the enforcement of that morality at a very, very nominal sum.
And you mentioned the word willfully in there.
Yes, that's important. The violation must be willful. This reinforces the knowledge element. You can't be fined for accidentally failing to rescue. You have to make a conscious choice to ignore the duty.
So, to recap, if I let someone drown to save my $200 shoes from getting wet, I pay $100 and I'm square with the state of Vermont.
Under this statute, yes. That is the extent of the statutory penalty.
Incredible. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. For the listener who wants to keep this straight, can we synthesize this? Give us a diagnostic checklist.
Absolutely. Think of this as your flowchart for the Vermont duty to rescue. Go through these 4 steps in order.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1, the trigger check. Ask yourself, does the bystander know about the situation? And is the victim exposed to grave physical harm? If the answer to either is no, stop there. There's no duty.
Got it. Knowledge and grave harm. Step 2.
Step 2 is the exemption check. Look for the outs. Is there danger or peril to the rescuer? Are there important duties owed to others? Is help already being provided? If you can say yes to any of those, stop. There is no duty.
Okay, so if you pass step 1 and fail step 2, meaning no excuses, you have a duty to act. What's step 3?
Step 3 is the liability check. This applies if the person did act and they messed up. So you ask, was it gross negligence? Did they expect payment? If the answer is yes, they are liable. If no, If it was just ordinary negligence, they are immune.
And finally,
Step 4. The penalty check. This applies if they failed to act. Was the failure willful? If yes, the result is a maximum $100 fine.
that is a crystal clear framework. It really highlights how specific the law is. It's not just a vibe of be a good person. It's a rigorous test.
It is. And it distinguishes Vermont from almost everywhere else. In most places, the law and morality run on parallel tracks but don't really touch. You can be a moral monster but a legal saint. Vermont tried to bridge that gap.
Even if the bridge only costs $100 to cross.
Exactly.
That brings us to the end of this deep dive. And I want to leave you with that final thought. We often look to the law to enforce our shared values. We say there ought to be a law against that when we see something heartless. Well, Vermont actually did it. They passed the law.
But it raises the question, can you really legislate altruism? And if you try, how do you price it? Is the $100 fine a sign that the law is toothless? Or is it a recognition that while we want to encourage rescue, we're hesitant to criminalize cowardice too harshly?
It's the difference between a legal obligation and a moral one. Vermont says it's both, but the price tag suggests they know it's complicated.
It certainly is.
Thanks for listening to the deep dive. Keep those life preservers handy, and we'll see you next time.